So this will probably be the last part. I just finished the block quote from Raine, R-A-I-N-E. What people met was a changeling or a phantom. For Raine herself, Raine as she was for herself, was off in another place. The story is probably familiar to most of us, in some degree. The cure for changelings is to get their attention. As we say, the child has not engaged with human life and needs to be woken. As our predecessors said, the changeling has to reveal itself and give place to the real child. What the fairy tale captures is the sense that there is an older life form than the human, or that there is, in a sense, nothing there but a mask, a hollow shape, until there is a true engagement with the world. Raine herself thinks more highly of that other world. There is a sense in which it is the land of the living, and our mundane concerns are pallid distractions from its reality. But that is a hermetic story more than a fable, than a folk fable. And folklore fairies are hollow things, forms left behind, which may occupy or capture the attention of living humans. Folk stories, often enough, tell of their flitting farewell rewards and fairies. But though the stories put a date on their departure, whether at the Reformation or when the friars came, this is no more historical than our Greek descriptions of Dionysus as a foreign import. It is of Dionysus's essence that he be foreign. It is the very point of fairies that they are once upon a time, and that those who would go to them forswear the present. Sometimes a captured human can be restored to present life, baptized or married into sociality, though thanks to the lapse of time they come to us from the past. Captured fairies cannot be socialized. Brownies take offense at being offered clothes, and fairy wives find some excuse to leave. Fairyland is not the earthly paradise, but the hollow lands, haven of those who will not take the long loop round through earthly pain and duties. To believe in fairies is to think that possibility is real and desperately attractive. It is heartbreakingly easy to believe, with Yeats, that, quote, "We are imperfect, incomplete, and no more like a beautiful woven web, but like a bundle of cords knotted together and flung into a corner. It is said that the world was once all perfect and kindly, and that still the kindly and perfect world existed, but buried like a mass of roses under many spadefuls of earth. The fairies and the more innocent of the spirits dwelt within it, and lamented over our fallen world in the lamentation of the wind-tossed reeds." End quote. But our ancestors did not share the romantic or secular illusion that all beauty was good, or that temptations were, at worst, only good things that got in the way of better. The beauty of fairies is an illusion that the fairies do not share. One common story is of the human midwife, called to assist a fairy birth, who touches her own eye with the ointment meant for the baby. She then sees the truth, that the mother lay on a bundle of rushes and withered ferns in a large cave, and not in a place, and not in a palace. To see the fairies is to see a terrible beauty. To see with fairy sight is to see the worthlessness, the smallness not only of mortal matters, but of their own. In a real and horrid sense, those caught up by fairies are not in a dream, but have been disillusioned. They no longer care, and feel no strong passion, though they infect others. Gaze no more in the bitter glass. This is a poem by Yeats. Gaze no more in the bitter glass, the demons, with their subtle guile, lift up before us when they pass, or only gaze a little while. For all things turn to barrenness in the dim glass the demons hold, the glass of outer weariness, made when God slept in times of old. It's the end of the poem. Only those who have lived out of water know what water is. Only those whose ordinary human life is structured by ceremonial and human meaning, who know of their duties and their perils, their friends and children, can clearly conceive that form of life which is fairy. Quote, that which she bore has the likeness of a unicorn, and is more unlike man of all living things, being cold, hard, and virginal. End quote. Virginity for Yeats is cruel. If fairyland were to enter the very fabric of our lives, we should not easily attend to it, any more than angry people know they're angry. Those who have despaired of human meaning, who acknowledge no duties save their momentary whims, who pride themselves on not being charmed or enchanted by the master hypnotists of piety or affection or moral duty, whose curiosity or greed or lust is both unlimited and unimportant even to them, are living out of the life of fairies. Whether their real human souls are somewhere else or not, what acts in them here is, in effect, a fairy. Such fairies are unaware of fairyland. To them it is the ordinary human heart that is uncanny. That is not bound forever in the circles of this world. So perhaps Yeats was right, if not in his worship of the city, yet in his suspicion that the new age dawning would be one in the grip of fairy. The knowledge of reality, quote, the knowledge of reality is always in some measure a secret knowledge. It is a kind of death, end quote. The death, its gaze, quote, blank and pitiless as the sun, that, quote, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born, is something we have cause to acknowledge and to fear. Quote, we may be about to accept the most implacable authority, implacable authority? Implacable. The most implacable authority that the world has known. Do I desire it or dread it, loving as I do the gaming table of nature, where many are ruined but none is judged, and where all is fortuitous, unforeseen? End quote. Was Christina Stoddart, the paranoid author of Light Bearers of Darkness, a renegade assault upon the Golden Dawn and other such occult groups published in 1930, altogether wrong to think that a deadly peril was approaching humankind, even if she was wrong to identify it with secret Illuminati, Kabbalistic Jews in league with the Soviets? But perhaps we can turn the story round once more. The first romantic view is of fairies as the sweet, everlasting voices of the natural world. The second views fairies as old and disillusioned. Fergus, choosing to be wrapped round by the druid's dreams, which are, in effect, the gift of fairyland, rather than waste his blood to be another's dream, remembers, quote, I see my life go drifting like a river, from change to change. I have been many things, a green drop in the surge, a gleam of light upon a sword, a fir tree on a hill, and an old slave grinding at a heavy quern, a king sitting upon a chair of gold. And all these things were wonderful and great. But now I have grown nothing, knowing all. Ah, Druid, Druid, how great webs of sorrow lay hidden in the small slate-colored thing. That by Yeats. Votaries of the first fairies enjoy their natural lives, embedded themselves in the delights of love and war, husbandship and crafting. Something like this is what is usually meant by paganism as a description of modern secular existence, though it may be doubted that the original pagans would have had much sympathy with secularism or the permissive society. Votaries of the second fairies have discovered the emptiness of human endeavor, the sheer alien facticity of the natural universe. Perhaps there are third fairies. Disillusionment detaches us only from the natural material world, or from that world as it is experienced by ordinary selves, and so makes a new, eternal attachment possible. Another of Yeats's poems. Clip and lip and long for more. Mortal men our abstracts are. What of the hands on the great clock face? All those living wretches crave prerogatives of the dead that have sprung heroic from the grave. A moment more, and it tolls midnight. Crossed fingers there in pleasure can exceed the nuptial bed of man. What of the hands on the great clock face? A nuptial bed exceeds all that boys at puberty have thought, or sibyls in a frenzy sought. A moment more, and it tolls midnight. End quote. There is Plotinus's gesture toward the real world of which this mortal existence is a shadow. On the one hand, visionaries may seek to glimpse that world through its images and shadows here. On the other, those who would grasp the real must at the last let go of shadows. Both first and second fairies point toward that vision, and their message is one of neither natural enjoyment nor disillusioned despair. The subjective and objective cones of Yeats's schematized mystical psychology both mirror reality, but are in themselves pursuit and illusion. As will be presently seen, the sphere is reality. The character of Phase 2, that no one of our age has ever met, is a first fairy. Quote, neither immoral nor violent, but innocent, a form of joy, a personification or summing up of all natural life. The fool of Phase 28 is a second fairy. The physical world suggests to his mind pictures and events that have no relation to his needs, or even to his desires. His thoughts are an aimless reverie. His acts are aimless like his thoughts. The two are separated by the supernatural incarnation of Phase 1. This last use of Yeats's scheme need not be taken too seriously. Almost any of the characters he assigns to the 28 phases of the visionary moon could be met in fairyland, for fairy is the home of those immortal characters that Blake saw in Chaucer's Pilgrims, fine 9 and 20 in company. This is a quote from William Blake. Shakespeare's fairies also are the rulers of the vegetable world, i.e. the natural universe. And so are Chaucer's. Let them be so considered, and then the poet will be understood and not else. Visions of these eternal principles or characters of human life appear to poets in all ages. The Grecian gods were the ancient cherubim of Phoenicia, but the Greeks, and since them the moderns, have neglected to subdue the gods of Priam. These gods are visions of the eternal attributes, or divine names, which when erected into gods become destructive of humanity. For when separated from man or humanity, who is Jesus the Savior, the vine of eternity? They are thieves and rebels. They are destroyers. So there's actually one part left, which I'll have to read in a short part 7.